Yeah. That's it. Yeah, push it back on now.
I think we're live streaming, we're all ready to go. So good morning everyone, and thank you for attending our ordinary meeting today, the 28th of February 2024. So I declare the meeting open at 9:01. So I do advise members of the public that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with the Council's standing orders. Councillors and staff are reminded of their responsibilities under their respective codes of conduct, both inside council meetings and when dealing externally on behalf of council. I'd also like to, on behalf of the Whitsunday Regional Council, start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet here today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We do recognise their deep enduring connection to country, and we extend our respect and gratitude for their wisdom and culture. I'd like to welcome the councillors, WRC staff, our members of the public, and both inside the gallery today and on the live stream, and any media that may be watching as well. So let's get started. So item number 1 on our agenda is our apologies and leave of absence, and I do believe that we have an apology from Councillor Wright, who is not attending today.
Move the leave of absence.
Yes, we can do that. I don't think we really need to, but we'll do that. Councillor yep. Councillor Jane Clifford, seconded. Is that you?
Yeah.
Councillor Brunker? Yep. All those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. So item number 2, condolences. So on behalf of the Whitsunday Regional Council, we'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the recently departed of the Whitsundays region and offer our sincere condolences to their families and loved ones. So I believe we do have some special mentions today. So Councillor Clifford, I'll start off with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to pay my deepest respects to the recently departed Billy Rose. Billy was in the Navy for almost 40 years. One of the highlights of his service, he told us all, was when he served on Britannica with the Queen, who he described as a lovely lass who liked sandwiches. Billy was instrumental in the formation of the Airlie Beach sub-branch of the RSL and was always ready with a great story or a joke. I personally send my deepest condolences to his wife Joan and family, and Billy was a great mate to everyone. Be sadly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brunker?
I'd like to pass on our condolences to the family of the late Sylvia Wilson, who passed away peacefully in Brisbane on February the 19th, surrounded by her family. Sylvia and her late husband Jean Wilson had left a massive legacy for the Bowen community with their donation of Mullers Lagoon parkland. Jean and Sylvia and their 3 children, Jeannie, Charles and Gwen, came to Australia from Florida in 1961. Jean had dredged in his hometown of Florida. He dredged lakes in his hometown of Florida and had a vision to turn the flood-prone swampland in the new town of Bowen into a picturesque lake. So originally it was called Swifty Swamp. The Wilsons began their project to create Mullers Lagoon in 1969, and it took over 10 years to complete, with the Mullers Lagoon reality by 1980. Jean did the majority of work himself, used a homemade dredge, front-end loader, shovels, trucks and scoops to move the massive amount of mud and silt. In the early 1980s, he and his wife offered the lake and most of the surrounding land to council for community use as parkland. I remember the debate back then in the particular council was heavily divided about the cost that it was going to take or to look after this massive piece of land, and thankfully our forebearers up on the wall there made the right decision and went with this beautiful parkland. They retained a small piece of land on the peninsula, which was their house. They lived there until 2006 and moved to Maloney to be closer with their family. It's perhaps timely that Sylvia lived to learn the news that Mullers Lagoon Master Plan, adopted by Council recently, will be developed over multiple stages over the next decade as grant funding becomes available. Early stages will include the connectivity and the pathway loops, upgrading existing amenities, and I would suggest that obviously council explore honouring their memory to Sylvia and Jean by naming some part of the master plan in their honour. There is a lovely stone table over there that they put in with a little bit of the history, but certainly in the future we could investigate that suggestion. So, Vale, Jean.
Councillor Collins.
Yeah, I'd just like to note the passing of George Nazelnoff. George was 102. He lived an amazing life. He was a World War II veteran. He came to Prosper in 1972. He was working in the council, and he was the health inspector and played a great part in around the time of the entertainment centre, cultural hall being built. He was a founding board member of the nursing home when it was built. And more recently, he's been well known as the patron of the local RSL branch, and of condolences to his family and friends. He's, like I said, a very popular man around town, and everyone knew George. So yeah, it's very sad. But 102, he lived a great life, and he could tell a few stories, I'll tell you.
So thank you, councillors, for those acknowledgements, and can I have everyone upstanding for a minute's silence for Billy, Sylvia, George and anyone else in the Whitsunday region who has recently departed. Thank you, please be seated. So next on our agenda is item number 3, our confirmation of minutes. So I will just put that up on the board, get that up on the board. Someone would like to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Simpson, and seconded by Councillor Collins. Has anyone got any questions or comments in regards to the minutes of our meeting on the 25th? Yes?
A little quick reminder, just didn't show up in LG Hub in the meeting files at this time. I just grabbed them off the general website, but it is very helpful if they just come through with the agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Any other comments or questions? I'll put this to the vote that we receive these minutes. All those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, business arising. Does any councillor have any business arising from the minutes? No. So item number 5 is the mayoral minute. I do not have a mayoral minute today. So on to item number 6, our notice of motion. There's no notice of motions being received for this meeting. So item number 7, deputations. We have not received any deputations for this meeting. Item number 8, petitions. Can I just ask if any councillor has any petitions they would like to table today? No, so we don't have any petitions to table. And there's no questions on notice? No? Okay, so item number 9, we have questions from the public gallery, and I'll hand over to the CEO. Thank you.
So we have received a question from the gallery from Roger Taylor. He has 2 specific questions to address, and we'll ask him to come forward and to read his questions.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present my questions to Council today. The background are fairly extensive, and you've all received copies of them anyway. So my first question is, Council approved the lease of a 90-hectare property in Cannon Valley, more commonly referred to as Haven Grant, property was leased without knowing what the remuneration would be, and I and the Whitsunday ratepayers would like to know what the terms of the lease are, what is the remuneration to council, and when will the lease expire? That is my question. The second question, what was the enormous cost to council and ratepayers for the significant court preparations by council staff, daily attendances by council staff at every court hearing for a full legal team from Mackay Solicitors, plus a barrister employed by Mackay Solicitors to represent council in court for 5 days to pursue an infringement order against a licensed plumber and gas fitter for $2,757. That would be increased to $34,452.25 if the infringement order was contested. As council lost the case when the magistrate declared that there was no wrongdoing and that there was no case to answer, the gas fitter who represented himself in court issued an invoice to council for payment on the 29th of December. The itemised detailed invoice is based on the actual hours spent in court, time spent writing counter submissions in response to council's legal team, submissions to court, out-of-pocket expenses incurred and loss of income. The invoice for a mere $10,539 apparently has not progressed in council for payment. And my question is, why has the account not been paid? Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, CEO.
So we'll take those questions on notice. We will actually provide a comment in relation to it to the next available council meeting.
Okay, so moving on to item number 10, our committee reports. We don't have any of those today. So item number 11, our officers report, and item 11.1, the 2023-24 operational plan quarter 2 report. Thank you, Councillor. Moved by Councillor Brunker, seconded by Councillor Clifford. And Director Jason, would you like to give a bit of an overview on the report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, councillors. You have before you the operational plan performance report for quarter 2. That's the period ended the 31st of December 2023. The operational plan each year really highlights those key activities undertaken by council that are consistent with the vision set through the corporate plan that was set some years ago. It highlights a number of significant projects and achievements, and they've been outlined in the first section of the report against those key achievement areas. The detailed information in the table at the back of the report identifies progress being made against each of the key operational activities. At a summary level, the majority of those are in progress, some have been completed, and there are really only 4 actions that are on hold. So out of a total of 41 actions, 31 are progressing, 6 have been completed and 4 are on hold. The 4 on hold have a number of constraints that have impeded their action so far, and some may or may not be completed this financial year. That will be identified through the current quarter and reported in the quarter 3 report. Happy to take any questions on the report, as I'm sure our other directors. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director Jason. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Clark.
Quickly, I know there's a lot in there, a lot of detail, I won't go into all of that. I added up all the percentages, divided by the number of items, got 49.6%, which showed me we're pretty much on track for a 6-month review. So I did think we do that with our capital works, other stuff. It might just be a nice summary item to sort of have there, so we can sort of follow that flow overall rather than looking at each specific job. Thanks. Otherwise,
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. No further questions or comments? No. Can I put that motion to the vote that we receive that report? All in favour? Thank you. Motion is carried 6-0. Next on our agenda is item 11.2, the development application permit for material change of use, short-term accommodation, Botanica Drive, Woodward.
I'd just like to declare interest for the record, please, Madam Mayor. In the report down towards the back end, it shows that ACON Whitsunday are the hold the management rights for this property, and I have a property that they look after as well, so I just wanted to put it out there for the record. I don't feel I have an interest or my vote won't have any bearing on, just because they're that hold the management rights, it doesn't really have a bearing on what the development application.
So thank you, Councillor Simpson, for disclosing that. Okay. All right, so that's the officer's recommendation is up on the board, so thank you. Moved by Councillor Collins, seconded by Councillor Brunker. Okay, would anyone like to have any comments or questions on this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you can see today we're travelling through 4 short-term accommodation applications. One of them is for a more multiple use purpose-built building. I think that's very different from these residential dwellings. We have seen people that live in this development wish it to keep its residential amenity. People who are thinking about building, we have to decide, to support this application, we have to decide, are they all planning on having short-term accommodation as well? Do we end up with another gated community that is, you know, more Airbnbs than residential houses? I see in the planning scheme that it specifically states urban uses are best put in urban footprint. This is outside of our urban footprint, and that's why I feel we should be allocating our short-term accommodation to areas that are more suited for it within our tourism centre, not travelling out into our residential suburbs.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Clifford?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't be supporting this application. I believe that people have a right to the privacy and the enjoyment of their property, particularly if they live in a gated community. I worry about the security. Nobody knows who anybody is. They're given the code to the gate or whatever it happens to be. So I will continue with my stance being opposed to these developments.
I'd just like to probably have a little bit of a rant. I will support this application only because I believe that it won't, it'll just cost ratepayers money to take this to court, and we haven't actually been successful in the past. However, I do know that I feel that we do need more investigation to reset in the future with the new council, a suggestion to reset the policy decision of Airbnbs in the region. And given a recent article in the Courier Mail, and I just want to read part of this so that people know where Councillor Clifford, Councillor Bowman and myself sit. In Queensland, the glut of short-term accommodation is swallowing up tourism towns already struggling amid the state's housing crisis. Figures compiled exclusively for the Courier Mail found that as long-term accommodation offerings plummet, short-term holiday listings from Airbnb and stays have skyrocketed in some of the Sunshine State's most popular coastal destinations. Madeline Parkin from AirDNA said Cairns had the largest non-urban market of short-term rental accommodations in Queensland, with 2,124 listings advertised in December, followed by the Whitsundays at 1,102. Exclusive data from properties and analysis firm PropTrack found the median weekly rent for any dwelling in Airlie Beach in the Whitsundays jumped from $400 in November 2018 to $650 last November, a 6.25% increase. 62.5% increase. So I just don't believe that people in the Whitsundays should be adversely affected by the interstate buyers buying up property and renting out for short-term accommodation, pushing up our rents and reducing the stock as stated in the Courier Mail articles and figures. So that's my stance. However, I don't believe that with our policy and our planning at the moment that we can really support that. that I would like to suggest that is something for the new council to have a look at and investigate STA precincts within the region. Rant over. Councillor Clifford.
Thank you. It was a good rant too, by the way. Through you to the Director of Communities. Director Julie, how's the local law progressing? If they're saying there's 1,102 STAs, I'd really like to know how many of those have gone through the development application process or have been grandfathered over, and how many bits and pieces letters we've sent out to the operators.
So, Madam Mayor, Councillor, local law is in progress. It's not actually a local law, it's a schedule as part of local law number 1 administration. 67 letters have gone out to those properties that have come through from planning that were existing use or had planning approval. From those, we have issued I'll take that back. 67 in total applications have come back in. We have had 6 of those that were received have paid for their invoices, their inspections completed, licence ready to go, if not gone in the last few days. 20 others received with invoices paid and inspections to be held. 17 received invoices sent, and once the payment's made, then further inspections will be done. And 24 have been, of those applications have received, and they're still to be processed because they may have missed something or we need some further information on the application. So as it comes through from planning, and Neil can probably speak to that, once it comes through from planning, then we pick it up and we go with it. So those that have had that have been approved through here, plus those that had existing rights, and then once Tamara's done her piece for the compliance for planning, then we pick it up after that.
Sorry, just so I'm having a blonde day. So we've sent out 67 letters, or we've received 87
letters went out. 87 letters went out, I believe. It was 87, 67 applications then were sent, for applications to be processed. There was a number of that 87 letters that went out that no longer are actually Airbnb.
So
they have decided to live in the property themselves or long-term rent. That will continue to be inspected annually, just to ensure that it hasn't changed.
So where are they getting this 1,102 STA figure from?
Well, the 1,102 STA will be what's advertised. Okay, so that's advertised on all platforms, I guess, for short-term accommodation. We are dealing with the now at this point in time. The planning team, so there's motels, hotels, all that sort of thing, which we're making the amendments to the local law that'll come through after the election. So there's a lot that are short-term accommodation on short-term accommodation platform that aren't actually that are going to be excluded from the local law. Hotels, motels,
I don't have a problem with hotels and motels. I have a problem with people in dormitory suburbs renting these properties out.
That is continuing to be chased between the planning team and the local laws team.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further comments or questions?
Can I just make one further comment? While there's a proliferation of these STAs, nobody in their right mind is going to build a substantial hotel. Everybody wants this, 5-star wonderful thing to be built wherever. But while we allow the proliferation of STAs, nobody in their right mind's going to build one. That's my rant.
That's your rant?
That's my rant.
Thank you. All right, so that's the officer's recommendation up on the screen right there, that we approve this development application, development permit for material change of use. All those in favour? All those against?
Be recorded against.
Yes.
And myself.
Division.
Division. Thank you, Madeline, to be recorded. So motion was carried 4-2 with a division for Councillor Bowman and Councillor Clifford against. You're good to go, Madeline? So on to the next one, which is 11.3, development permit for material change of use, short-term accommodation for Sugarloaf Road, Reedvale. Moved by Councillor Simpson, seconded by Councillor Collins. I'll open the table up for questions and comments. Anyone? Yes, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. I didn't have to do all my rant in the first one, because I know we've got so many coming through today. I think there is a difference with this one, that we're actually getting well outside the urban footprint, out into rural residential. These come before us because there have been submissions. The neighbours do not want to put up with this. And these people live on an unsealed driveway, bordering with one of them easementing across their property to get access to this. And they know the effects. They speak of the noise that travels through the valley in a very peaceful area. People have said that's why they moved there from town, to seek the peace and quiet. Shift worker wanting to sleep through the day. People just wanting enjoyment of their rural property that has the possibility of now becoming a different group of people doing what people do on holidays. They want to have a good time. They want to enjoy themselves. That's why we're here. But should that be happening in a rural residential house? I don't think so.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman, any other further comments or questions? Right, so that officer's recommendation is up there. I'll put that to the vote that we approve the development application for permit for material change of use. All those in favour? All those against?
Division.
So motion is carried for 2, and can we please record a division with Councillor Bowman and Councillor Clifford as against? So moving on to item 11.4, another development application, development of permit of material change of use, short-term accommodation for 43 Harbour Avenue, Shute Harbour. Moved by Councillor Simpson. Got someone to second it? Seconded by Councillor Brunker. Any comments or questions? Thank you, Councillor Clifford.
Thank you. Through you to the Director. How many of these things are in Harbour Avenue and in this general area? And is there any ability to cap so that there's only 10% of, in a particular street or whatever? Because I think it's Harbour Avenue, there's 3 of them already in a row, which is causing great angst to the neighbours.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there are quite a few in close vicinity. As far as this land is on a court bowl, there's a street that heads off at the end. There are 3 down the end there. It's a narrow driveway. They've already been approved by council. There is a short-term accommodation in Warrane Street, just on the low side of the property. There are no limitations as far as there are no percentages that I can say to you. Once it reaches a certain level, we have the ability to refuse applications. Obviously, there is much discussion about what is a reasonable mix and what is a reasonable percentage. Unfortunately, there's no science, no theory, no investigation about what that percentage might be. So we don't have any percentage to be able to guide council in its decision making.
Through you back to the Director. Perhaps it's something that we could show some leadership on, because this isn't just our community, it's communities right across Queensland and interstate, I would dare say. I don't live down at Byron Bay or somewhere. But maybe there is some kind of a formula that we could come up with that we will put into our next amendment to our town plan, so that you don't have 3 or 4, 5, 6 of them in a row causing mayhem. And it is a problem because they might have to provide 2 car parks on, but you know, if you've got a 4-bedroom house, it could well be 4 couples, 4 cars. It is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just like to support Councillor Clifford there. When I look around other councils, the coastal councils, of calling, you know, their 2018 research into STA is groundbreaking. They're now undertaking a second round of that. We're a member of that, yet I have not seen us taking any part in that research or information. Noosa brought in a consultant. They are escalating their rules and their town planning against STAs in residential areas. You might have seen last week they won in court over somebody's challenge to those laws. When you look up to Port Douglas, the mayor there is referring to research that he was provided, which is showing now the majority of houses in Port Douglas actually used for tourists. It has gone past even. I feel we need to be making these decisions based upon real research. I think that's where we need to move to as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just a comment on this one. I know Councillor Bowman talking about Noosa and Port Douglas, but here and now in Whitsundays, we've spent almost $100,000 in the last 12 months fighting these things in court. So until we can $90,000 in the last 12 months, so I can't go against this one and just throw the ratepayers' money out the window.
Very
briefly. The $90,000 also included the depot at the Delta. In fact, the majority, the highest bill was on the transport depot proposed for the Delta, and we went against the officers' recommendations, but they backed down in court. Just to clear that up. The average cost for these is about $8,000.
Thank you for your comment. Councillor Brunker.
Every time one of these come up, we talk about they're all party houses. So somewhere there must be a litany of complaints, noise complaints, and you know, people running around in the law and all that sort of stuff. So where do we track that down? Could the new council, or maybe our next council meeting, invite the sergeant? I think
we have one at the moment.
There'll be an OIC or someone down at the moment, which and I know they turn up to, they might know that we have the board out the front, the police, to say that if they turn up to a house and obviously there's a board out the front, it is a short-term accommodation. Perhaps they could assist us with complaints to say, yes, this address we're there, you know, twice a week or twice a month, because either that or our, I would just imagine our customer service would be just flooded with complaints as well, because people would ring the council, and I'm not quite sure whether our customer service is overrun by complaints either. So to balance this up, and we could get the managers back in. Whether you think that's a lopsided view, they probably wouldn't want to say how many people they go out to, but surely between the police and our customer service, is there such a litany of noise complaints that are blowing the community out of the water? That would be something that's very interesting, because at this stage there's no evidence.
Thank you, Councillor Brunker. First port of complaint is the sign on the property. The second would be the police. It's going to be very, very hard to track, I believe. But if you've got councillors that are living in divisions that are constantly getting complaints, I think that also has to come into a consideration as well. But thank you, good comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's not just the amenity, it's the lack of rental accommodation for people that pour your beer at the pub or make your coffee down at wherever else it happens to be. If you go and get a rental listing from any of the real estate agents down there, The cheapest one I could find was a 1-bedroom, 1-car park in Proserpine at just under 400, and it went through to Cannonvale at $1,200 and something odd dollars a week for a 4-bedroom, very ordinary looking house. So that's the other side of it, Councillor Bronca.
Councillor Collins?
Well, the last few years, I've been listening to Noosa, we've been listening to every bloody region in Queensland with their short-term accommodations. And yes, we are looking at a new policy, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, Mayor. We do need to make a policy, and perhaps we can put in the new policy when councillors get complaints, they can email them through exactly when and what time, so we can email them, the directors will be able to be fully aware of what's happening then, and if there is a situation, then we can just camber them straight on the head. But until we get evidence put in front of us, or the directors, we can't do a thing about their noises.
Thank you, Councillor Bronca. Do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I fully realise all sides of the argument, but the first thing we say is it's a party house, and I'd certainly support if someone wants to put up a resolution here today that we ban all future STAs if you want to. I'm quite happy to do that. But it's up to the council. Just knock it on the head, and I've said it before, you can put a population cap on Early Beach if you want as well, I'll support that. So it's just whatever you want to do, put something up. But at the end of the day, Noosa's 1.2 million population can be on a weekend with 30,000 people. So, and Port Douglas is even less population than us. So, quite happy if you want to work it out, just go whooshka all the road.
Thanks, Councillor Bronca. I don't believe we can make that kind of decision in caretaker mode today. So that might be one for the new council.
Yeah.
But hopefully the new council will take on board all of the comments. So can I put that motion to the vote that we approve? All those in favour? All those against?
Call for a division.
So motion is carried 4-2, and can we please record a division, Councillor Bowman and Councillor Clifford as voting against. And next on the agenda is 11.5, development permit for a material change of use for short-term accommodation, backpackers accommodation at Pantel Street, Bowen. So I'd like to thank you. Councillor Simpson has moved that. Councillor Collins has seconded. I'll open that up for anyone got any comments or questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is different to the other short-term accommodations. It's the existing building that was built for long-term workers accommodation being transferred across. I've had a look. There certainly does seem to be some conditioning issues there. I see a certification is required before the use can begin. I hope that is the fact. The one safety concern I have with it is knowing that if farm workers are there, that minibuses are coming and going. I did look at the planning scheme from the base level. It says in the actual outcomes, it should be planned for the number and type of vehicles planned for the development. I think we know minibuses are going there. Right up at the overall outcome, it says that on-site parking, access, circulation that are safe, convenient and meet the reasonable requirements of the development. I really believe a minibus is a reasonable requirement. That's just my question to the director, is this safe here? I know we've got turning circles for cars. I know, just to clarify, there's 8 bedrooms, one of them's dormitory, and our planning scheme only requires 2 parking spots. 8-bedroom facility. I'm very glad, and I read in the report that they met with town planning for a pre-lodgement meeting. They were very open to what we put forward, but all we put forward was 2 parking spots. They've upped it to 6. I'm just hoping that will allow for safe manoeuvring of the minibuses we'd probably expect to see there right through picking season.
Thank you, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it has been a matter that we've looked at. We're comfortable with the layout of the park, and look, it accommodates 6 conventional vehicles, if I can call them that. There is ability for that area to be used for a minibus. The safety issues about the minibus parking on Pantel Street doesn't raise concern with us, so yes, we think it's quite safe.
Thank you, Councillor Clifford.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director. Is there on-site management, like 24, is there like a manager on site?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there doesn't have to be, no. I understand that occasionally there has been in the past, but as I understand it, this is a new use, a new owner, so it's not a requirement per se.
Any other further comments or questions? No. So can I put that to the vote that we approve the development permit change of development for material change of use, Pantel Street? All of those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Sit down, just keep standing up. 11.6, item number 11.6 is the development application for development permit for material change of use for the shop liquor store at 29 to 31 Main Street, Crosspine. Moved by Councillor Clifford, seconded by Councillor Collins. Any comments or questions in regards to this one? Councillor Bowman.
Thank you. I've seen what happens when we take parking away from Airlie Beach. I know I've had concerns with proposed developments of this happening in Canberra, but on a far greater scale than this. I'd probably look to Councillor Collins, who knows Proserpine best, as to whether this is the best way he sees it going forward. Do we get to a point in Proserpine where parking's so scarce that we start charging people for parking there as well as Airlie Beach? So I'm probably just reaching out to see. I certainly want to see Proserpine move ahead. I think the pub's redevelopment is a fantastic thing. It's providing a service. We hope they don't end up with many bottle shops as the beach, but having one in a convenient location obviously shows some benefits. So really, I'm just reaching out for a local's opinion on is the bottle shop more important than the park? Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
I don't believe there's an issue. It's been put to us to approve by the professionals, not us. So they're happy with what they've got, so am I. And look, I think everyone in town will benefit from it, believe me.
Very quickly.
Yep, I do appreciate that. The thing is that the professionals are saying that the commercial business can start to utilise public parking spots. I don't think that's something we can continue.
IGA already do, mate. Yeah. Parking spot behind IGA's council, it says that in the report. Well, that's a stupid question, believe me.
Keep it respectful, thank you. Okay. No more further comments or questions on that one? Right, can I put this to the vote that we approve this development application? All those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. So next on the agenda is 11.7, the development application for development permit for reconfiguration of one lot into 3 lots at Wrights Road, Strathdickey. Councillor.
Move to approve, if I can second that.
Seconded by Councillor Collins. So Councillor Simpson has approved. I'd like to talk to you.
Yes, Mads, the conditions have been circulated.
Alternate resolution.
Yeah. My reasons for this decision are, one, the fragmentation of rural land in Wrights Road, especially this end of Wrights Road, has already occurred, and there's the 2 smaller lots have room for a house or a dwelling on them that don't interrupt with the quarry overlay. Also, in the report, it states that some sections of the block have over 15 degrees slope, which is not suitable for agriculture. And there were no submissions lodged against the development. That's a big one to me, because normally this has gone out to public submissions. There's been none, so I can't see why we can't approve it.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Can we please bring up the map of of this, where this is, just to, because I've got a question here.
Page 169.
There's a yes. So there's cane farming in very close proximity to this, Director?
Yes, Madam Chair. It's probably not quite as evident in this one, but there is on the other side of Wrights Road.
Okay. And there lies my problem. It is in very close proximity to cane farming land, and we know that we've had issues in the past where people build houses and then complain about what goes on in the farms as far as noise and dust and all of that. So then it puts pressure on the cane farming, which I think everyone around the table knows my stance on losing prime agricultural land and putting our mill in Proserpine at risk. So I won't be supporting this one. And also it does, even though you could get those houses outside the buffer, which I believe is that line that goes across the screen, they're very, very close to our quarry buffer, which if that increases in the future, that I would believe that buffer would increase. Would that be correct?
That's the expectation, Madam Mayor. If the activities in the quarry shift or expand, you would expect that there would be a change in the buffer going outwards.
Thank you. So I won't be supporting this, Councillor Simpson's. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with you. I think the quarry is a very important public asset. The proximity to the buffer, I thought, would be recognised with this. Talking about houses being put up against the road, directly opposite active cane farm. And if we could just go back to the page beforehand, we'll see this is stepping out the rural residential creep. So the brown area is rural residential. You see we're leaving some rural land. We're now starting what ends up rural residential again. It's just a point where we've got to say, how far does this keep creeping out of an area that was probably questionably allocated before, but do we just keep backing that up with more intrusion, more conflicted land? I don't believe it's the way it goes.
Any other comments or questions? Can I put the motion to the vote? All those in favour? All those against? So I believe that's 3-3 so I believe I get my casting vote on this one. So I will be voting against. So we go back to the original.
No, that was the motion.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes,
So
yeah.
is there any
That was an amendment.
So the motion has
So
been
that
lost.
motion has been lost. Do we have anyone else? Can I move that we accept the officer's recommendation? So I will move that we accept the officer's recommendation, and that is seconded by Councillor Clifford. So I've moved that we, yes, Councillor Clifford.
Open to debate.
So, yeah, any comments or questions or debate on this one? Councillor Simpson.
Make a comment about the quarry overlay. To me, since I've been a councillor, the quarry hasn't made a profit. I know we're reviewing our structural organisation and trying to turn it around, and we're talking about expanding the quarry already here, but maybe it's in our best interest to purchase the whole parcel of land for a council asset down the track. I didn't think we would be expanding the quarry any time until we started making a profit on it. That's just a comment.
Thank you. Any other further comments or questions? Can I put that to the vote? All of those in favour? All of those against? So I will use my casting vote in favour. So motion is carried 4-3.
Recorded, please.
And can we have a recorded division? Councillor Collins, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Brunker, we're against. Okay, so next on the agenda is item 11.8, the development permit for preliminary approval for the building works, height relaxation and material change of use for dual occupancy and reconfiguration of Lot 1 into 2, Stonehaven Court, Early Beach. Moved by Councillor Simpson, seconded by Councillor Collins. And so this is basically the height relaxation on this that we're assessing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a problem with the height relaxation because we went down there and it's really not like a 12-storey thing. What I do have an issue with is the sight lines for the proposed driveway into the development where it's coming roundabout. We've got further development going on the hill with the Skyrail, Skytrain, whatever we're calling it this week. And I really have some serious issues about safety and also the removal of very large established trees.
So, Director, would you like to comment on that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The safety issues have certainly been looked at by the engineers. They're comfortable with the proposed design and layout that's been submitted. One of the, benefits of it being so close to the roundabout is it's not a straight road, so the vehicles won't necessarily be going flat chat at 60 or 70 kilometres an hour. I do understand that during the site inspection there was a vehicle that decided to go up Raintree quicker than average. You're going to get that on every street on occasions. Nonetheless, the engineers have looked at it, at the various aspects of site distances and relayed that back to appropriate standards, and they're comfortable that it satisfies those requirements.
I just noted when we did the site inspection as well that you have that little driveway where people drive in to go for the walk. That is probably closer to the roundabout than what this is going to be to the roundabout. So I don't believe we've had any issues there. Yep. So yeah, that's how I've made. I looked at it and thought, well, people are going in there, and it's less distance from the roundabout than what this one actually is. So and again, the height relaxation is only 60 centimetres in one corner, so I'm happy with that as well. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was looking at the satellite photos. The driveway is actually closer. The current mud car park for the Early Beach Walk is private property, so that won't be there. It's not an actual crossover. It possibly wouldn't get approval anyway. But the thing is, when you're coming and going from there, you do get a line of sight through the roundabout. The issue with this property is you're coming around the corner, street trees, and up the hill. And we did see a number of vehicles carrying their speed to get up that steep hill. They know it's there. That's where I see the safety issue. My other real problem is giving these heights and reduced setbacks on what is a limited block of land in the Early Beach Bowl. This is low to medium density. If we were doing this to be getting 6 units that would put a roof over 6 families' houses, I'd see, yes, we want to take advantage of that 12-metre height. That's what our low medium density is for, to allow overheight buildings, reduce setbacks on minimum size lots for the benefit of 2 houses, I think is seeing the scheme work against us. There should be something in here that gives the height to these people when they are creating higher density, rather than just being allowed. And we're seeing this is not the first example where a single dwelling is going up to these 12-metre height limits. To me, the safety, the lack of density for the development and the probability that they'll end up short-term accommodation anyway doesn't justify these variances to the planning scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. One of the considerations that I did make was what was already in that area, and it kind of fits in with what's already there. Okay, any other comments or questions?
Say briefly, just to say, amongst the 6 submissions were 15 residents of that street who have actually signed submissions against this. They're also speaking out about this being a breach of the covenant. We talked about the developers coming in here. What I've read in the submissions is they are under a requirement to only be 1 story above the road, a maximum height of 8 metres. So, you know, they're asking to even go over our planning scheme, let alone being part of the community and body corporate of Stonehenge.
Questions? Can I put this one to the vote? All of those in favour? All those against? So that motion is carried 4-2.
Vision, please.
And can we please record a division as Councillor Bowman and Councillor Clifford against? So next on the agenda is item 11.9, our Queensland Audit Office report for the local government 2023, and Director Joe. Oh, sorry, I'm going to remove that. Thank you, Councillor Clifford. Second by Councillor Bowman. Now I'll go to Director Jason. Would you like to give an overview on this report, please? I know you're very excited to give this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, councillors. You have before you what's presented each year by the Queensland Audit Office to the State Parliament in relation to the financial performance of local government. This report talks to the financial year 2023 and outlines the outcome of those financial statements presented by all councils to the Audit Office for audit, noting that in the current environment, only 70 of the 77 councils in Queensland had completed their financial statements by the time. The report does reflect favourably on Whitsunday Regional Council, but I'll just highlight some of the key issues that the Auditor General is rating to be more broadly for Queensland local government. So 3 recommendations came from that report for all of local government. First one was around implementing processes to ensure policies and procedures are regularly reviewed. That's an item we have in our radar and certainly will be forefront of our minds as we look towards the new council and that onboarding. The second one relates to that, provide an onboarding program for all elected councillors and mayors following the elections. And again, the Audit Office is commenting on council's general understanding of financial literacy and financial performance at the table and seeking to continue to improve that more broadly across the local government sector. And the third of those recommendations was annually review the registration status of employees undertaking engineering services. Those recommendations that have come forward are all matters we currently have in hand or we are managing as an organisation. The report does reflect on the performance of local government in their audit, but also the financial performance. I'm pleased to report that Council does have green light indicators in all of those tables in the report. Importantly, in relation to the financial sustainability of local government, we've received a green rating which indicates a low risk of financial sustainability. That's something that we are proud of as an organisation in terms of the performance and effort. Other commentary in the report talks to particularly the timing and performance of completing your annual financial statements, and we have good systems and processes that allow us to maintain a good record in terms of our speed in finishing the accounts and working cooperatively with our external auditors to ensure that the timely presentation and sign off the audit is completed well within the statutory timeframes. There are no outstanding audit issues that are listed for Whitsunday Regional Council. The report comments on a lot of prior performance and internal control issues across local government as a sector. We don't have those issues listed for us. We have a clean bill of health at this point in time in relation to audited controls. And finally, I'd just like to thank Council for the support in recognising this report, and it's been presented to Audit Committee as well and reflects well on the organisation, both elected and officers, in the presentation of financial information. Happy to take questions, Madam Chair.
Councillor.
I don't have a question, but through you to Director Jason. I'd just really like to thank you and your staff for a great job. Really appreciate it.
Councillor Brunker.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. It is election time coming up, and in case people are playing silly buggers with this report, I think we should clarify that the only mention of Whitsunday in this report is the ROC. The Whitsunday ROC is the Whitsunday Regional Organisation of Councils, and I think it was for a late submission, or hadn't put their financials in, so it's not the Whitsunday Regional Council, it's the Whitsunday ROC, which is made up of Mackay, Isaacs and our council. So just to nip that one in the bud.
Councillor. Any other further comments or questions? No. So can I put that to the vote that we receive this report? All those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Next on the agenda is 11.10, our monthly finance report. Moved by Councillor Clifford, seconded by Councillor Bowman. And Director Jason, would you like to speak to this report as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The highlight of the council meeting each month, the presentation of the monthly financial report. I know there are a number of councillors that look forward to how this information is presented each month, so I'll do my best to continue to entertain council. The council financial report as at the 31st of January does present a stable financial position. I do want to make some commentary on the information that is in there, because there are some timing differences that could be misinterpreted in the information that sits there. So in the actual year-to-date column, in the start of the financial report, it does reference an operating deficit of $3.7 million. That is really due to the timing of the release and striking of the rate notices for the second half of the financial year. They were planned to happen in the last week of January, and they happened in the first week of February. So that's a timing difference, and I'll talk about that a little bit further on in my explanations. I also want to reference what appears to be a negative capital position around how our financial assets are being capitalised throughout the year, and how those assets are being taken from work in progress and put into the individual asset classifications. That capitalisation process again is a timing based issue, and it reflects there at a negative figure. That by no means is a reflection poorly, it's just a timing issue in relation to how the information and the assets were constructed are recognised for accounting purposes. We continue to track ahead of our performance around the investments of council, and we've been favourably recognised in relation to the interest rate increases and us having good cash holdings at this point in time. Direct spend continues to be under budget, as is the direct labour spend. So that's something that we are monitoring closely during this financial year. In relation to the overall financial position of council, I do want to recognise that we have pushed through the net value of almost $1.3 million in terms of our assets. So we've got 1.29 billion there. So we're continuing to recognise assets as they are capitalised, and that references the work that I just completed. We continue to hold that security of the financial overdraft with the Queensland Treasury Corporation. We'll continue to carry that even though we have a significant cash position, because that gives us some flexibility should unforeseen matters come to bear. Rates and charges continue to trend down prior to the release of the rate notices which were issued in the early half of this month of February, and we continue to work on those sale of land properties. So the 29 properties that we started with, as of yesterday, down to I think 11 or 12. So we're continuing to see success as we get closer to the auction date. I do want to make a couple of comments around the capital delivery. So you can see that we are at about the 50% rate for capital delivery. Whilst that's pushed through to the end of January, We think that things are relatively on target, so that was assessed at about 47% for the financial year, but we also noticed what the impacts of current weather might be in relation to that information. I did want to make a couple of comments in relation to questions that I had been previously asked by council. So there are healthy cash reserves in relation to money that's being held for future infrastructure. So the report presents about $126 million in cash being held by council at the moment. Just under $79 million of that is really committed into those reserves at this point in time. They're split generally, so about $54 million sits in reserve for general activities that relates to roads, parks, gardens, those types of assets. Water, sewage and waste, they have about 15 million of that in there, and there are small amounts then allocated to both the airport and Shute Harbour. Those funds are really set aside to fund future capital works that are going to be required against those individual asset classes, and they're also a reflection of past results where that money's been set aside for those renewals. One of the questions that does continually come up is around what we call funds set aside for the replacement of assets. So we call that term depreciation in accounting language. That number in our current budget is around $30 million. At this point, we've consumed about $18 million of that this financial year. Depreciation is an accounting term to recognise how the value of the assets have changed over time. It also is one of the indicators that we use to assess what money we spend on improvements, whether they be refurbishments, replacements, or just maintaining those assets in a usable form. So you will notice that we've had about $30 million of that this year. Our capital program is about $64 million, so we are currently spending well in excess of what we're required as a minimum, and that'll reflect on the ratios that are shown as well, which I'll just use to tidy up on. The ratios that we present are really looked at from an audit perspective on an annual basis. We show those series of ratios on a monthly basis, really because we're producing that financial information. We see some value in producing the ratios at that time as a guide to how we're performing, but they will be influenced by timing issues, and as they are in this report. The first one being the striking of the rate, so the revenue is off target. It won't be in range this month, but the next financial reporting will be back in range. So realistically, the table gets produced and audited once a year through the annual financial statements. We're just trying to provide that information so that councillors have a ready record of how we're performing against those indicators. They are all new indicators that were introduced for this financial year. Previously, we reported only 3 indicators, but I think we started through this financial year, almost the start of this financial year, reporting all of those new indicators, and where we see appropriate, we'll continue to do so. We're happy to take questions that might be specific to that report.
Thank you for that very comprehensive report, Director. Well done. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for the answers, Jason. Appreciate the time you give me, and also the other financial staff. I like playing right down in the numbers, but I also do appreciate the new sustainability ratios. Just within that, I think on page 332 of the agenda, I just feel that when we do have benchmarks here and liquidity and stuff that are in months, and the formula for establishing it is in months, that we could get across there. Is that now standing at 20 months? Is it?
Sorry, page again.
332. I just know in the December ones there was a percentage sign there going back to 30th of June. We're sitting at 14. I'm just wondering if that is in months or not, because the benchmark is just greater than 4 months. Just when I'm seeing percentage marks appear and disappear, I'm just wondering if that is months. It's just for future ones, not so much for this one. And the other thing is really just on our debt servicing capacity. When the benchmark is between 0 and 3, and our figure at January is sitting at 4.47, I just don't see how we end up with a tick on that. I do know, it's varying quite a lot, but I just think if something's outside the benchmark, I don't expect to see a tick next to it. Thanks.
Okay, in relation to the first one, Councillor Bowman, around liquidity, those numbers are significantly higher. So greater than 4 months, it does show we have 20 months worth there. That's reflective of the increased cash position that we currently hold. We would see that as a point in time issue, and as we normalise through completion of capital expenditure works, and we're using some of those reserves that we have set aside, that should go back to a more normalised range, which you would think is probably under 12 months. In relation to the debt servicing capacity, it reflects that point in time issue, but it also reflects the points in which we make the payments. So there are quarterly payments made against debt. That's the standing arrangement that's always existed with the Queensland Treasury Corporation. And I suppose the months where those debts aren't being serviced, the ratio isn't as accurate as it could be. So take your point in time, and maybe as we move forward, we might consider presenting the ratio information on a quarterly rather than a monthly basis as a better indication, so we can align some of those timing differences, and we move away from what might be peaks and troughs in those indicators throughout the year due to the timing issues. So our proactiveness is well intended, but it might skew the information from what the real underlying position actually is. If that makes sense to everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Further comments or questions? I put to a vote that we receive this report. All in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. So next on the agenda is 11.11, the update to council meeting dates. Someone moved by Councillor Bronco, seconded by Councillor Bowman. Any comments or questions on this one? Thank you, Councillor Hines.
It's only a week away. I'm imagining it won't be a real long meeting, won't it? I've got previous commitments on the Tuesday, that's all. So, yeah.
Yes, at this stage we have a very short 5 items, and currently have 5 items on the agenda, and it's obviously this has a degree of ceremony as well. It's the last meeting for this time.
Any other comments or questions?
It's just October is the LGA to do, is it?
Yes, at this stage we have, there's actually, LJQ is actually giving us a number of different training and operations through the next period. We'll be working with them. October is when they've called their conference, and it's often a time when a number of councillors, and I encourage a number of councillors to attend, so it's probably not this enables us though we're not quite half the council here.
So that's in Cairns? Okay. Just curious.
Okay. So can I put that to the vote that we accept these dates? All those in favour? Motion is carried 6-0. Right, on to item number 12, our officers' report. Confidential matters. There is no confidential reports for today. So item number 13, our late report items. There is nil. So on to item number 14, our matters of importance. And would anyone, yes, Councillor Brunker, like to?
Just a couple of quickies, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering if we could look at some, for our Director of Engineering, the RMPC slashing of the Collinsville Road. She's starting to get over the guideposts there, and I was just, with being RMPC, it's something that, the guys should be right up with. I know there's a bit of rain around the region, but they started on the Barwon end, but certainly haven't even started on the Collinsville end, which makes it the road look a bit smaller than what it normally is. I was just wondering if we could write off to the Department of Main Roads in Mackay and asking them to put obviously bring it into their budget. We've got two issues on the Bowen to Collins Road, which is the widening near the range. So it is the original 1960 road width. So it's a section of 2 kilometres that's never been done. I was told once that they had to widen the actual range section before they do that. Believe it or not, there's a digger out there now and they've got half the range blocked off, starting to widen that. So hopefully that might be the start of them being able to complete the road widening. So I think we need some sort of confirmation of Pat April if that's the case. And whether they're going to do anything with Stragglers Gully. So Stragglers Gully is a big culvert between Collinsville and Glendon. So with the advent of the Carmichael mine, it's a big cement invert causeway, and of course that's where the road's blocked now, and it has been quite regular where it floods. So an easy solution, being a non-engineer, might be to put some culverts over the top of it because it is a cement base, but a lot of our railway workers and mine workers are getting stuck there, and of course you're in no man's land because then if they get stuck on the Glendon Road, you're in the middle of nowhere. So they are the two issues for main roads that if we could check up on to make sure that they're progressing with that. I know a minister said years ago they weren't going to widen the Collinsville Road until Mount Coolin was finished, but Jesus, I might be well over Boot Hill before that finishes. So, and I think the amount of traffic that's on this Bowen to Collinsville Road, it needs a bit of priority. So if we could write to Pat April, that would be wonderful.
Councillor Clifford.
Thank you. Just if we could have some info brought back maybe to the next council meeting or whatever suits. How we're going with our acquisition of the Shute Harbour boat ramp, and do we have any plans drawn up to improve it? And because I mean this was pre-caretaker, so all I'm asking for is just an update on it because I have been asked.
Others reports? No? Okay, and I did neglect to welcome Gary, our new Director of Infrastructure Services, Gary Murphy, to the table. So Gary, welcome, and I apologise for not doing that at the beginning of the meeting. I thought, because I missed it, I'd do it at the end, so welcome aboard. So that's it, all that we have on our agenda for today. So I thank everyone for your attendance, both online, around the table and in the gallery. And I declare this meeting finished at 10:19. Very quick one. Thank you.